Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. Hi, preschool peeps.
Hi, peeps.
For those of you on YouTube, yes, you see a Band-Aid on my face. And I'm just going to give that one word, and then we're going to talk about some more serious things. The word is dermatologist. I think everybody gets the picture.
Yeah, you understand.
Okay.
We're all adults. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Dermatologist.
Yeah.
And you may know that we pre-record our episodes, and we sort of are interrupting our regular schedule of pre-recording episodes to talk about the horrific shooting that took place in Texas and our perspective as people who work in the field of early education. And for those of you who do, and those of you who are raising young children, we felt that it was very important to talk about this terrible current event and what do we do from here, and what should the country be thinking about, really. At the end of the episode, we are going to offer you the chance to vote on something, so stay tuned. But we do need to talk about safety and the importance of safety in the psyche of young children. First of all, I think it's just so hard to talk about, but the loss of life and potential of these very young people and the horror that these families are going through is truly unspeakable. And I don't know that Alison and I can truly do justice to how we feel about the fact that these families are suffering, and that this sort of suffering has been going on for so many years, so many times. Every time this happens, I think back to Columbine and those teenagers who so bravely got on television and stood for what they wanted and what they believed would be right for safety for everyone from that point forward. And here we still sit.
Here we still are. Yeah.
Here we still sit saying early childhood education settings and all education settings should be a child's safest place to be, along with their home.
Yeah.
And, young children are in stages of development where they are developing parts of their psyche like trust, independence, and that psychological safety that's really needed for them to feel like school is a place you belong, your childcare is a place you belong, it's a place where you are loved, it is a place where you can develop self-esteem and be the best version of yourself. And that harkens back to the hierarchy of needs that we've talked about on this podcast. When that you don't know that you are safe, when that happens, when you don't know that you're going to be safe, you just can't do the rest of it.
Yeah.
People are, of course, when they have young children, advised to limit their exposure to this sort of news. It's part of the air, though, and they hear things and they see things, and some other child in their class is going to build something in the block area about it or draw something about it because they heard something, and that's really the only way they can express their angst about it. We as early educators in the moment have to, of course, reassure the children that we are okay. There are helpers in the world, just like Fred Rogers taught us, right?
Yes.
He has that great quote, Alison.
Oh, yeah. He's like, always, his mother taught him to always look for the helpers when there's a disaster or trouble. There's always people out there that are helping. And that's just true.
Right. We need to talk about the helpers with them. We need to talk to them about even all the things we do to stay safe. You do drills, you do fire drills, you do lockdown, you do evacuation, whatever it is you do in your setting. And that's why we do these drills. And we know what to do if something happens. Plus there are helpers, and we're here together and we're okay. right? And we're going to have all of these conversations with children if it comes up. In the early childhood ages, I'm sort of an if it comes up person.
If it comes up. Yeah.
Now, we've heard from some of our preschool peeps that it has come up.
Mm-hmm.
We've written back to people who have written to us to tell us. We've heard from people in Texas and other places that it has come up. And so I know you're doing all of those wonderful practices with them, being reassuring, make sure you keep their routine steady so that they see the routine is continuing to go on. You know, read books about community helpers and reassure them. And more important than anything, give them the space to be creative, whether that's drawing in the dramatic play area, whatever it is, they need that space to be creative because that's how they're going to express if they have any worries or anxiety or questions. And that will enable you to know if it's something you should address, because they may not talk about it, but they may reenact it.
They're feeling it maybe.
Right.
Yeah, and they don't know how to express it. Yeah.
Right. Or they may even just come to you and say, you know, something about, you know, my mommy and daddy are sad, or my mommy and daddy were upset or scared, or so we have to talk to them about how everybody gets sad and everybody gets scared sometimes. And it's okay if the adults around you feel that way. They need to know it's okay. It's very off-putting as a child when your family is upset.
Yeah. So
they need to know it's okay for people to be upset. And they need to know that we're there for them. And as Alison and I continue to write to people or respond to that and think about this episode, I keep thinking, you know, it's further evidence maybe that the way we have education set up in this country is no longer working. If we're not going to enact laws that protect the children, then the system doesn't work.
The system doesn't work. And you as a parent need to protect your child. You know,
I know, you know, certainly the pandemic inspired more homeschooling, and I suspect that this will too. Yeah. And I think that there can be a happy medium between we're going to take all of our children in this community and put them in this building so that people know where to target should they be not well and want to do that, or we're going to keep all the children apart and home. There's a place in between, I think, and that place can be something that we actually talked about in the midst of the pandemic when schools were locked down. I feel like I have to go back to, should there be educational pods instead, so that we're in smaller communities where everyone is spread out, and maybe it's a little harder than going, oh, look, there's the elementary school, or there's the high school, and there's where all the people are, all the teachers, all the children. I don't know. I'm certainly struggle with the fact that we've come this far and no change in the law has taken place.
I don't feel like a lot has changed.
Nothing's changed
over many different events and things, and you would have thought by now it would have.
And I know that there's a lot of many people advocating for that change. And in the meantime, we're in this situation. In the meantime, I don't see it taking place. And you know what's going to happen? This is going to, what happened in Texas is going to eventually fade from the news because something else is going to take over.
Going to happen.
And that's not okay. Something needs to be done to provide young children and all children at every age with the psychological safety that they are entitled to, that they need to develop a healthy psychological being. Something's got to be, like, I feel like there's a lot of things being taken into consideration at a government level, but the psychological development and mental health of young children is not.
Well, yeah.
And the mental health, may I say, of their teachers, may I say. Right? Because arming them,
that's no.
So I think about the teachers who were like during the pandemic, especially those who were close to retirement or eligible for retirement, who said, I didn't sign up for this sort of teaching. I'm out.
And now there's another group that were already fed up from that, who now this is happening, and there's a slew of them leaving too. And I honestly don't blame them, because I mean, they saw what happened during COVID and nothing, and everybody thought, like, I think during COVID, and that's a totally different situation than what we're talking about here, but everybody thought, oh, this will change education, this will revolutionize it. Everybody saw how this could happen or whatever, we could change it. And then it was like, oh, business as usual, we're back, okay, it's fine, everything's back exactly the way it was. And now here you have all these really even more horrific events where loss of life, and everybody's all talk but no action here, so it's like you have to take action yourself. And if that's like me as a teacher being like, I need to keep myself safe and take myself out of this building, then I don't blame them. If that means you as a parent say, I need to keep my child safe and take them out of this building and homeschool them where I can at least make my house safe, and then do that. I don't, but if it's all going to be all talk like it's been for so long of like, oh, well, everything's going to change, and then nothing actually happens again.
I don't even think that anybody said it was going to change. I think there are people saying we need it to change. There are advocacy groups and advocates saying we need it to change. I don't necessarily see this change happening. And that makes me—
There is no change happening.
That makes me so frustrated, because is anyone caring about the mental health of these children and the adults who have to be with them? Anybody? Hi, is anybody out there caring about the mental health?
No. They're not. Nothing's changed. Nothing has changed.
So there's that bunch of things that I mentioned earlier that we need to do with the children in the classroom, right? People have said, what should I do? They've written to us and said, what should I do? And we've given advice like, please give them the space to be creative so you can see what they're thinking. Let their families know, be in touch with their families if you see anything where you think this child has anxiety about this, be in close contact with their family. Their family has to know that right away. And you need to partner with the family in order to figure out the approach to this child. I can't decide that alone. The families also have to weigh in on what they would like us to, they would like us to approach their individual child. I've worked with some families when I would say, is it okay if they always said, oh yes, please do. I would rather you handle it. And I've had other families who have said, you know what, just let them know they can talk to me about it later and we'll handle it at home. That's fine. So you have to, I think one of the things we have to do as early educators, again, as any educator, is reach out to the families and say, if this is expressed in our setting, here's what we've done so far. What would you like us to do if it continues? If the attention to this continues in the classroom? And we'll let you know what is actually within the bounds of what we can do and what the advice is to us as early educators, so that we can come to a mutual agreement. It doesn't have to be, I know people are listening out going, great, families are going to dictate everything. It's not a dictation from either side. We have to understand where they are in it, in their family context and their culture, and how they speak to these children about these things. And they have to understand our perspective, knowing what abilities, tools, and knowledge we have to help navigate this time. So families and children and teachers and administrators need to all come together in agreement about these sorts of things. We need to keep reassuring them. Like I said earlier, we need to reassure the children. And I have to tell you that when I reassure children, I feel a little reassured. So go ahead and reassure everybody, right? And in addition to that, we have to advocate. And maybe the advocacy needs to lean more toward the mental health aspect than the gun lobby aspect. I don't know. I think my understanding, and I will admit I have limited understanding, but my understanding is no one is saying completely take guns away. We're saying take certain kinds of guns away. And please make sure that there are registration laws for these guns. There was a meme on, I think on Facebook, maybe Instagram, I don't know. But it was sort of like someone is standing in a store at a counter and they've got all the cold medicines out and guns out on the counter. And the person behind the counter says to them, I'll need to see your ID for the Claritin. Well,
Yeah.
all these guns are sitting on the counter. Isn't that the truth,
Isn't
right?
that the truth though? Like,
I don't know if it's Claritin. Sorry, Claritin
but
people, but I need to see your
cold
ID for the
medicine, you
cold
need
and
ID for
allergy
cold medicine.
medication. But I
Yeah,
don't need ID everywhere.
for you to buy a gun.
And I know,
Yeah.
I know that this is controversial, and I know some of you listening may be thinking, that you don't agree with that. And that's fine. That's what makes the world go round. We don't have to all agree. Our perspective on this podcast is always what's good for children, families, and educators. And what's good for children, families, and educators is having a country that protects them. Why is this the only country where these shootings take place, folks?
Yes, because I saw that too, of like mental health issues are everywhere.
Yes.
It's not just in the United States that there are mental health issues. There are mental health issues in all of these countries. But what is the difference here? in that, and it's got to be something with the types of guns that we allow here, rather than in other countries they are not allowed. And so that might be.
I don't know what the laws are in other countries. I'm just saying we're the only country that keeps having these school shootings.
Yeah.
There is a reason for that, folks. And I'm a lover of freedom and choice too. I really am. I believe in the freedoms and the choices that we're given in this country. And within, what do we always say about free choice time in early childhood classrooms? Choice doesn't mean that there aren't boundaries. We have laws in this country. We're not allowed to do certain things. That there needs to be a boundary around this, because our young people are entitled to psychological safety.
Yes. Well, I also think maybe what is different in our country than in other countries, and I'm not really sure because, I don't have much knowledge, is what causes people to get to this breaking point where they're like, okay, I'm so fed up, I'm going to go shoot a school or a hospital or whatever it is. Like,
there was a hospital recently.
So what are we doing here that's making it so that people are getting to that point where they feel like the only way they can, I don't know what their reasoning is, get their frustrations out, make a point, whatever, just do as much damage as why? When in other countries, people don't seem to be getting to that breaking point as often. Like, what are we doing here? Is it something in the education system from the time we are growing up all the way through, they're putting too much pressure on people or something? Or is it just something in society that's causing people to get to this point where they feel like this is the only way they can? I don't know. I don't know, because I'm not in their head when they do it. But
I don't know.
Is there something to that too?
I don't know. And then what the families suffer. There's the families who are involved in these tragedies on both ends, by the way. There's a movie, I think it's on Hulu, that I just watched.
Okay.
It's called Mass, MASS. I highly encourage, because it gave me a perspective on what a family whose child has been killed in a school shooting goes through, plus what the family of the shooter goes through. It's really about a meeting of two families, that movie, the victim's family and the shooter's family.
Yeah.
And it was, at first, honestly, when I first started watching it, I was like, what is happening here? I didn't really know what it was about. And I was like, what is happening here? And then all of a sudden, I was enthralled by it, because it gave you a glimpse at what all these people go through.
Yeah.
So can we please spare these families? Can we please even find a way to address all this? We're living in such difficult times now. We're living in these very interesting times. I think to kind of bring the episode or this topic to some sort of conclusion in this episode, though the topic is ongoing, I just want to say a couple things. I think one is, you absolutely need to advocate. If you are listening to this podcast right now and have not done anything to advocate, and advocacy can look different from person to person.
For everybody,
It can be very local. Like, I want to know what's safe in my child's school. It could be your school district, your politicians, lobbyists. It can get bigger and bigger. It can be writing a letter to somebody. It can be advocating through your voting. It can be so many things. It can be donating money to whichever side of a cause you believe in. It can be that sort of thing. So figure out a way where you feel like, okay, I have voiced in some way the value that I place on safety and mental health in our school systems and in our child cares. So I encourage you to do that. And another thing that I want to just offer is something that I heard at a meeting recently. People were talking about not this situation, but chaos in general. And they were talking about how over the course of history, there have been very chaotic times, and then they always led to times of calm and peace. And so I hope that the chaotic times that we're sort of living through right now lead us to a really peaceful and calm place eventually. Hopefully during my lifetime, I will get to see this, where things maybe improve. I think there's such pessimism about that too. But the only way to improve it is to be a part of the advocacy and to have a voice. So I hope that it does lead us to a time of calm. And I know that I speak for both of us when I say that if you are a listener who has had any kind of attachment to these events or events like them in the past, our hearts are always with you. And hopefully you can find solace in how many people really, really care about this. This is horrific. And so here we are, having to talk about it. I hope that you will think about the practices that you have put in place, both with families and children, to support and help them feel safe and to seek safety, which is the title of this episode. Okay. Speaking of episodes, we're going to pivot. Speaking of episodes, we have an offer for you all preschool peeps. Interesting offer. We have in the past, when there's been a holiday, sometimes brought out a lost episode or a repeated episode, and we have a holiday coming.
That's what I call those, the oldies but goodies.
The oldies but goodies. We have a holiday coming in July, and so we are going to do a holiday rewind, which is going to be one of our prior episodes with a little commentary in the beginning, because let's face it, we've been doing this podcast for a while now. Several years, and they could be a little dated, especially because some of our episodes are from before
COVID,
before the world completely changed. So we would put some commentary in the beginning, one or both of us. We have to decide. We have time to decide that. But so what we want to do though is not pick the episode. We want you to pick the episode. We took 3 of our most popular episodes and put them in a poll on our website, howpreschoolteachersdoit.com. We invite you to go to howpreschoolteachersdoit.com, right there on the home page.
It's right there in the front. You can't miss
there. Log in and it's going to be right there. You might have to scroll a little, but it's going to be right
down
there.
Just a little bit.
You have the choice of 3 episodes. Do we want to tell them? Or should we make them go to the website to find out which ones?
No, make them go to the website.
Okay, go to the website.
Yeah, there needs to be some sort of like mystery to it all. Because now they're going to be like, wait, which ones? Which ones? Which ones? Go to the website.
Go to the website. Howpreschoolteachersdoit.com. Please vote. We're going to be watching for your votes. The winner is going to be the one that we comment on and rewind on July 4th. We know that people binge this podcast. But not everyone does. So it may be an episode you've never heard, or maybe it's one of your favorites and you're thinking, I could use that reinforcement again.
Yeah, maybe you listened to it, a year or 2 ago, and times have changed since then, and you want to see what your new take on it might be, because you might have different thoughts than when you first listened to it. So you never know unless you listen. There you go.
Correct.
Yeah.
We will watch for your votes, and the one that receives the most votes will be the one that we comment on and rewind. looking forward to finding out which one wins.
Me too.
While you're on the website, folks, look around. We have some cool stuff
There's
on
other
there.
stuff on there.
Mhm.
Some really good stuff.
And we continue to add to it every time we get a chance. So look
Mhm.
around.
Yeah.
Okay, preschool peeps. Take good care. Seek safety.
Yes, stay
Seek
safe.
psychological safety for yourself, for the children, and for the families.
Yeah.
And we'll catch you next time on the podcast.
Bye, peeps.